Imagine brilliant medical insights. I mean, groundbreaking technologies just sitting there ready to change everything.
Yeah.
But they get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
They just struggle to move beyond the lab. They never quite reach the patients who really need them. Why does so much amazing academic innovation just stall out like that?
It's a huge challenge, a really critical one. And today, we're diving deep into something called healthcare commercialization programs, or HCPs for short.
Okay.
These programs are specifically designed to bridge the infamous gap between cutting-edge academic research and, well, practical real-world use.
Right.
And our insights today, they come from a really pivotal paper by John M. Collins, Alfarizes, and Michael K. Dempsey. These guys are genuine experts in translating healthcare innovations.
Great. So our mission in this deep dive is pretty clear then.
No.
Let's really try to understand the unique hurdles in getting healthcare breakthroughs out there.
Yeah.
And how these specialized programs, these HCPs, offer a crucial, maybe more efficient solution to get vital tech from the bench to the bedside. So let's unpack this problem a bit. The paper talks quite vividly about a growing imperative and challenges in commercializing academic medical research. They often call it the Valley of Death. What exactly is this Valley of Death when we talk about healthcare innovation?
Well, think of it like this perilous chasm, right? Between the academic discovery, the cool science bit, and actually having a viable commercial product people can use. In, say, electronics, you often see Moore's Law, things get faster, cheaper, exponentially better.
Right, everything doubled.
But in healthcare R&D, particularly drugs, we're often fighting something called Eroom's Law, that's more spelled backward.
Got clever.
Yeah, and it describes a decrease in efficiency. So R&D spending goes way up, but the number of new approved drugs doesn't keep pace. Sometimes it even declines. It highlights this real struggle to turn great research into cost-effective, accessible treatments.
Wow, that sounds like a really tough reality. So if we're facing this valley of death, what does that really mean for the academic investigators, the brilliant people actually making these discoveries?
Yeah.
It sounds like just having amazing technical result, that alone isn't enough to impress investors anymore, is it?
That's a really crucial point. Financially motivated investors, they're often much more worried about market risk than the technical risk.
Okay.
Will people actually buy this? Is there a reimbursement path? Whereas academic investigators, their rewards often come from publishing papers, getting grants.
Right, the academic incentives.
Exactly. So they might mistakenly think the commercial value of their work is just obvious, but they're often not really equipped to think beyond the lab bench to anticipate these commercial hurdles. Like, is there a real market need? Who pays? Is the clinical workflow feasible? And this disconnect, this is what leads to promising technologies just sort of languishing in the lab.
Making that valley of death even wider and deeper, I guess.
You got it. Harsher and wider.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. The paper proposes these healthcare commercialization programs, HCPs, as a direct solution. How do these programs actually help? How do they change the game?
Well, HCPs are really designed to do two things at once. One, cost-effectively advance projects towards commercialization. And two, simultaneously build the skills of the research teams.
Oh.
They essentially help investigators learn while contributing to an entrepreneurial activity, building those vital business and market skills they just didn't get in grad school or their postdoc.
Right. Learning by doing, but focused on the business side.
Yeah.
Can you give us some, real-world examples? How do these HCPs actually work in practice?
Absolutely. Two really successful examples highlighted are Simit's Cray Ash course, which focuses on health tech innovations like devices and digital health.
Okay.
And the NCAICC Healthcare Commercialization Program, which is more geared towards therapeutics.
Got it.
And the impact is clear. For instance, one Cray Ash team, they actually reported, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, less than a year ago, I was an MD PhD student, no business experience. Simit taught us to make hypotheses about our business and test them rigorously by talking to stakeholders. All that data convinced investors.
Wow. Real results.
Real results. Some teams raised over $11 million in commercial investment. But just as importantly, the programs also facilitate quick kills, identifying projects early on that lack market need, saving potentially millions in wasted resources.
That's a huge point, too. Failing fast.
Exactly. And similarly, participants in the NCAICC program said they learned to think differently about our technology with a business practical perspective never learned in graduate school or as a postdoc. That mindset shift is absolutely key.
Those are powerful examples. So if an institution wants to replicate this kind of success, What are the really essential ingredients? What are the key lessons for designing an effective HCP?
Well, fundamentally, they build on the core principles of the National Science Foundation's I-Core program. That means forcing teams out of the lab.
Right, talking to people.
Yeah, conducting maybe 10 or so exploratory interviews per week with stakeholders, customers, clinicians, payers, regulators. That's often the toughest part, but also the most valuable.
I can imagine.
But crucially, HCPs must tailor this approach to the unique complexities of healthcare. Things like the buying dynamics, the person using the tech, the patient or doctor, often isn't the one paying for it. Their objectives can be misaligned.
The payer-user split.
Exactly. Then there's the incredibly complex reimbursement landscape. It's not a free market, it's heavily regulated. And the regulatory pathway, getting FDA approval, for instance. Early decisions there can cost years and millions. You can't just launch a minimally viable product if it might harm patients.
Very true. High stakes.
Very high stakes. Plus, the culture clinicians take a big personal and financial risk-leaving practice for a startup. And finally, the sheer scale of funding requirements. It can take, $2 billion to bring a new drug to market. That scale scares off many smaller, early-stage investors.
Okay, that really highlights the differences. So this raises the question, how do the best HCPs adapt? What makes them truly effective given all those complexities?
Yeah, effective HCPs really need some specific distinguishing features. First, the team composition is critical. You need clinical, technical, and business perspectives right there on the team, usually coordinated by a dedicated entrepreneurial lead.
Makes sense.
Second, the executive faculty, the mentors and teachers, they absolutely have to be seasoned healthcare industry experts, people who've actually navigated these challenges and can give consistent, practical feedback.
Real-world experience.
Essential. Third, the content itself has to be laser-focused on those tricky healthcare issues. Right. Reimbursement strategies, regulatory planning, fitting into clinical workflow, understanding hospital procurement. Generic business advice won't cut it.
Tailored curriculum.
Precisely. And finally, integrating the HCP early into the funding pathway helps a lot. Maybe thinking of it as a phase 0 award, a sort of pre-seed funding specifically for this commercialization exploration and de-risking. That significantly improves funding efficiency later on.
Got it. So it's really clear then that these healthcare commercialization programs, they're much more than just, extra business courses. They seem to be vital bridges.
Absolutely. Vital bridges getting critical innovations out of the academic labs and into real-world patient care where they can actually make a difference.
Right.
And if you connect that to the bigger picture, what HCPs offer institutions and funders, too, is a really cost-effective way to significantly increase the odds. The odds of selecting the right projects, advancing them successfully towards commercialization, and achieving that ultimate goal, patient impact. And as a bonus, they build the institution's overall innovation capacity for the future.
That's a fantastic summary. So let's leave our listeners with a final provocative thought to consider. How might more widespread adoption of these kinds of specifically tailored programs, how might that dramatically reshape the future of medical breakthroughs and ultimately patient well-being right across the globe?